Hi, Michael Hurwicz here for CreativeCow.net with an introduction to state sets in 3ds Max 2013. Go to Rendering, State Sets. So here we have a default state, State 01. You can create new states either by going to States, Add State, or just by clicking right here. Click once, click twice. Now we have 3 states. And each state has a record button just to the right of the state name. And when you click the record button, it turns red. And now you're recording changes into that state only. So for example, I've got the box selected. I right-click, choose Object Properties, and disable Visible to Camera, and click OK. Then click again here to stop recording. Right-click, Render Selected States. And you can see the box isn't there. Now you can click on this arrow to select each state. This state is selected. If I select this state, right-click, Render Selected States, the box is still there. And the same for that state. That's because I turned off Visible to Camera in this state only. So I'm going to double-click here and rename this No Box. Okay, let's try another one. I'm going to click here to turn on recording for this state. Bring up the material editor. Here I have a pink material. I'll select the sphere, then right-click here and assign material to selection. And it turns pink. Get out of the material editor. But that only happened in this state because we were only recording for this state. So turn that recording off. If I select this state, the ball is not pink. If I select this state, it's not pink. It's only pink in this state because that's the state I recorded it into. So I'm going to double-click on this state name and rename that Pink Ball. You can also nest states, and then the child inherits from the parent. So for example, if you drag the pink ball state into the no box state, it's now nested under that state. If I select the pink ball state and render it, it's got the pink ball and it's got no box. It's got the pink ball because that's its own property, and it inherited the no box from the no box state. So I'm just going to drag that out again. So states are kind of like layers for storing changes that you make to your scene. One thing you should be aware of is that transforms, like let's say I move the box, are never limited to one state. Whether the record button is on or not, transforms always show up in all states. And there's a complete list in the help documentation of what states do record. And it's a long list, especially for rendering. So states give you a great way to set up multiple render passes with different settings. So once you have your different states, you can render them out. So let's do that. You need to choose an output path. So I'm going to go down here to Render Outputs. If that isn't showing, by the way, then you need to go up here and select it up here. I already have a path here, but I'll just select a new one. So Browse, and here I have an Out directory in this project, and click OK. So there you can see where it's going to be going, and it's going to be going to a Targa file. Just click Set Path to enable that. Now you can go up to States and render all states. Here's that out directory, and here are those states rendered as Targa files. You can see the no box output, the pink ball output, and the state01 output. So they're named after the states here. And the typical reason for doing this is to bring these files into an application like Photoshop or After Effects, where you can composite them and do all sorts of wonderful things with them. But before we go into that, let's take a look at the Slate Compositing Editor. Click Compositor, Composite View. And you get this node-based schematic view of your states. And here you can work with the states a little bit right in 3ds Max. So here on the left, you have a node representing each of the states, and then an output node for each of the states, and then a composite node where all of them are combined. So I'm going to right-click at the top of this composite node and zoom selection events to make that a little bit larger. And you can see that we've got the 3 states right here in layers. And here I can work with certain characteristics of each layer. So for example, I could go to the pink ball, just drag that up a little bit. And here we have the blend mode. Choose multiply. Now right now it doesn't seem to be affecting the ball because the ball is actually being covered up by the no box. So I'd actually rather have that ball layer on top. So I can just select it here, drag, and drop. And now the pink ball is on top. It hasn't shown up here because I need to go to Compositor, Refresh. And there it is. And now we can see the pink ball. Again, I'll right-click, zoom selection extents. Click here to expand that pink ball layer. Drag this up a little bit. It's now on the normal blend mode. Let's choose lighten. So each of these blend modes has its own effects that you can experiment with. And you can also experiment with the opacity. So I'll just double click there and put it in an opacity of 50%. And you can see now the green ball from below is showing through a little bit. Okay, how to get this into Photoshop or After Effects. Photoshop is very simple. To get all these states into Photoshop, use Compositor, Create PSD. This window comes up. You could either type in a path or I'll just click Browse. And I have a PSD directory here that I was planning to use. Click in the file name box and max to AE and save. And then render. Now I can go here and go to my PSD directory, and there's the file I just saved. I'll open this with Photoshop CS6, and there it is. And you can tell just from the color here that that lighten and the 50% opacity has come through. And actually you can see it here. Here's the 50% opacity, and here's the lighten. So what I did with the Compositor in 3ds Max has come through to Photoshop. So I'll get out of Photoshop now. For After Effects, there's some installation required before you fire up After Effects. The installation basically just consists of copying 3 files into certain After Effects directories. And 3ds Max describes how to do this for After Effects CS4 and CS5. And CS6 is very similar. So for Max 2013, the 3 files you need are here in External Plugins, in either CS4 or CS5, and Windows. And this says CS5, but it seems to work for CS6 too. So here are the 3 files that you're going to copy. And in the After Effects CS6 directory tree, these files go either right into Support Files. These are 2 of the files right here. And the 3rd file goes into Support Files, Plugins, AEGP. And if you don't see an AEGP directory, just create it. And then drag this file in there. So make sure you copy those 3 files over before you even start After Effects, or what I'm about to show you won't work. You won't see the Compositor Link option in After Effects. So back in 3ds Max, click here on Compositor Link. Choose Create Link, and I'm going to put it in this SOF directory. SOF stands for State Output File, and that's the type of file that we're going to save. I'll just give it a name, Max to AE, and save. Now I'm going to bring up After Effects. Move this over so you can see this better. Click on File, and open Compositor Link Autodesk. This little dialog box comes up. Click Create Link, and you need to find that same link that you just created, the same SOF file. It happens to already be in the right place for me. Click that. Click the Save button. And right away you see all this pops into the project window. Select the Autodesk link here, double click on that, and it will all pop into the timeline. So for example, there's our pink ball, there's the no box, there's State 01. If I open this, go to the transform, there we have the opacity 50%. So everything came through just the way it was in 3ds Max. So that's as far as I'm going to take this right now. The Compositor Link does offer two-way updates, both from Max to After Effects and from After Effects to 3ds Max. So if you made some changes here in After Effects, you could click Update to Link, and then in 3ds Max you would click Update from Link. And of course it supports full motion graphics, even though I demonstrated it here with something that doesn't have any animation in it. So that's State Sets, a new feature in 3ds Max 2013 that opens up new possibilities both for working within Max, but especially for working with external programs like Photoshop and After Effects. I hope this has been helpful, and thanks for tuning in.